Well, brides get overwhelmed with the big decisions, but sometimes don't overlook the details because that's what's going to make such a difference. Today, Michael Nolte, founder of Nolte's Bridal, author of Wonder-Filled Weddings, and the planner of more than 1,200 weddings is joining us to share what those often overlooked little things that actually make the huge difference. So welcome, Michael. Thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be back. Yep, today we're talking about details that make a difference, and specifically a wedding that I did in Cincinnati, Ohio in June for a Kansas City family, but the bride and groom were living there. And it started out with every detail that was well thought. One of them was this beautiful invitation that was sent, and you can see that online.
This is so stunning. And who actually was the calligrapher behind this?
Calligrapher was Michael Nolte, who's also been interviewed here on the program, but you can see the work is so fabulous that even the invitation envelopes are saved by the guests.
And if I remember correctly, he also wrote some of the envelopes for like the Oscars.
Oh, he does, and the Smithsonian and the White House, and he only addresses invitations purchased at Nolte's Bridal. But even the back of this is finished with moire and just the thickness of the paper stock, so that was a detail that kind of set the tone.
Okay, and we all know that you're also the bling king. So, you know, we got to get into this.
Plain and simple just doesn't fly for me at all.
Okay.
If somebody says, I want something quiet and plain, I think I'm not the guy. But if they want wow, I'm their guy. And lots of times brides go way under scale on their jewelry. And I say, if it's something you'd wear to a cocktail party, it's too small to wear for your wedding. So we're seeing on screen that the bride had beautiful necklaces for the bridesmaids and peridot crystals and gorgeous necklace and earrings for herself. And her mother had a beautiful blue topaz necklace as well. So it was all just a little bigger than you'd think you'd pick, and it's perfect for a big wedding.
Okay, and basically, so if you were wearing something like this, even if you thought it was classic, it's just not going to show up.
It wouldn't show up at all. If it doesn't show up, don't waste the money on it.
Okay, now let's move gears and go to aisle runners because we know that you love those. You know, tell us about the detail.
Well, an aisle runner, you know, used from medieval history, it was always rolled out before the royal family walked in, and it'll let people know they're coming. And aisle runners now do the same thing for a bride. But notice how that one is monogrammed with Swarovski crystals, and then we cut that section of the monogram out and frame it, and couples take it home and hang it over their mantle or in a stairwell, and they just love it.
Well, and that probably makes the day just so special because if the royal family's doing it and you think about the progression of time, that's really going to set the stage.
And on that day, you are the royal family.
Wow. Okay, now let's move gears to music. Now, is this typical, or is this one of those little details that makes such a difference?
I think brides sometimes think, oh, well, I should have the bridesmaids walk down to canon D and I'll walk down to trumpet voluntary. So I love it when the music that I suggest is something different we don't hear all the time, but you've got to have fabulous singers. And we imported the two best singers out of Kansas City, whose names are Neil and Christina Hager-Darling. They were classically trained in New York. They're here. We flew them into Cincinnati, Ohio, and they just make people hold their breath through the entire song, and I love having them sing. So have the very best vocalist money can buy. It makes such a difference in the details. Okay,
and when you're planning these weddings and you look around at people's faces when they're hearing these live performances, I mean, what's people's reaction like?
They're spellbound. I mean, sometimes the minister at this particular wedding, when Christina and Neil were finished singing the prayer, the minister forgot to start speaking again.
Oh my God! So it's that good.
They are that good, and having fabulous music at a wedding is a detail that's oftentimes overlooked.
Okay, now let's talk about candelabras though, because these are so beautiful. You know, what's the story behind these?
And different. What's really cool, about these is scrolls was sort of an emblem that I used throughout the wedding. We saw it in the monogram, we saw it in the invitations, we saw it in the calligraphy, we saw it in the linens on the tablecloths. The groom is an iron worker, and once he knew that I wanted to do a scroll-type candelabra, he created, I forgot, 20 pairs of these that went down the aisle.
Oh my gosh.
And they're done in this beautiful scroll pattern, and then we had 36-inch tall candles that came out of every single one of the candelabra. And so that whole theme of scroll from linens to invitations, and the fact that Kyle could actually make those candelabra was just fabulous.
Well, that has to be so special when you can share something you're passionate about or one of your talents on that special
We designed it together, and he fabricated it, and I want one for my own Thanksgiving table.
Oh my gosh, that would be perfect.
That would be a detail that most people don't have, that's for sure.
Okay, well, Michael, thank you so much for walking us through all of those details and, of course, showing us everybody's talent across Kansas City.
We're going to be doing it. See you next month.
Yeah.